Okay, now we go to see Sofia's story. Rain never seems to cease at this time of year. Pours from the sky in its unending grief, as if longing for something unseen. Thunder roared in the distance enough so to make the young woman flinch, but not enough to make her waver. The taxi gently rocked as the road turned to rubble, and the rubble turned to overgrown dirt track. Outside of the window, Sofia could barely see a few feet away through the raging storm. It made her feel uneasy. In her lap a letter, she read the words again, despite knowing them by heart. Dear Sofia, how glad I am to hear that you are well. I am healthy, although I believe I may have a problem with the heart. It has gotten quite lonely waiting here for my parents to return. I am thankful to have Lika residing with me, but I still await the day where my family will be reunited. But you say that it is safe enough for you to visit, truly? I have never even dared to dream of being able to see you in the flesh. If it is true, then I will await you at the address written on the back of this letter. Yours, Amelia. Taxi driver, you sure you have the address right? We're in the middle of nowhere. Sofia stared at the fragile handwritten address that Amelie had left her, had trusting to her. Sofia, yes, this is the right way, I'm sure of it. Her heart wouldn't settle. Meeting what could be a stranger in the middle of nowhere on a day like this. Who wouldn't be nervous? Yet there was something else. Eagerness, a thrill, something beyond mere nerves that turned into excitement. She could barely imagine the hand that had penned the letters she had been receiving for years on end, let alone a face. But for some reason, her heart still beat hard when reading the letters that the mysterious young lady of 19 from a manor far out in the middle of nowhere wrote to her. Despite to calm her jitters, she pulled out her phone, looking to send her worried family one last message of reassurance, only to find that it wouldn't switch on. I'm sure it's fully charged. Rain was falling even more heavily now. In the distance, a building sprang into view, and it was surrounded by a tall metal fence with an ornate gate firmly shut at the front. Just then, the taxi sputtered and rolled to a stop, smoke rising from the hood. Taxi driver, what the? I had this serviced a week ago. Is something wrong? Taxi driver, sorry, miss, looks like we're out of action. Sofia, it's okay, I think we're nearly there anyway. Pulling the cash from her wallet, she handed over her fare and stepped out of the car. The rain bucketed down from above, soaking her to the very core. She shivered as she dashed towards the iron gate. Surprisingly, it pushed open with little effort and not even a creak. Sofia stepped in front of the large wooden door, finally free from the seemingly never-ending downpour. From afar, the door had seemed inviting enough, but now it looked awfully large and imposing. And yet she raised her fist and knocked anyway. Silence followed. Sofia, is this not the right place after all? The door swung open, this time with a low, menacing groan. On the other side of this door was a fair girl with long brown hair and golden eyes. Sofia, forgetting the fact that she was soaking wet, rushed forward and embraced the girl. Sofia, Amelie, Sofia, Amelie, Sofia. Amelie's gentle arms wrapped around Sofia's back in return, and finally all of Sofia's worries melted away. My, you're completely drenched. Did you get your umbrella, perchance? Oh, perhaps her umbrella got carried away by the wind. Behind Sofia, the front door swung shut without any assistance. I didn't even think to bring an umbrella. The forecast said sunny all day. My fault for believing it, I guess. Amelie, I can't believe you truly are here. Sofia, me either. About time, right? You're just as pretty as I knew you'd be, Amelie. And you too, but what are you wearing? Sofia, seeing your house, I feel like I should have dressed up a little more. Amelie, no, perhaps it is that I is overdressed. Sofia smiled. Somehow her dress sense seemed to fit her writing style perfectly, old-fashioned and yet very neat and respectable. Sofia felt a slight heat rising to her cheeks. She usually was so refined and elegant. Amelie, pardon my manners, my dear friend. Lilika is here too. I believe I wrote about her in the past. I remember. I've kept all your letters safe. Don't worry. Amelie, as you should. Sophia, haha, sorry about. Is there any chance you have a towel? Of course, my apologies. I would usually have someone here to attend to us, but everyone's been sent home. Only the three of us remain. Let me fetch you a towel. Amelie withdrew from the hug. She was a little taller than Sophia, despite both being the same age. Sophia peered up at her from below before she disappeared down a hallway into another room. Sophia, this really is a manor. When she told me about her house, I almost didn't believe it. A layer of dust rested against the tabletop, along with a few other items on the settee. A newspaper sat open. That it was a deep emerald green. It looked almost unused despite its apparent age. On it rested a newspaper open and a few pages. Sofia turned her head to read the headline. From afar, could only read the word plague. She reached across to pick up the newspaper. Behind Sofia, the window began to shake in the wind as her fingertips grazed the surface. It's so windy. Spun around just in time to see the front door fly open and the howling wind filled the entryway. She scrambled to the door with a great effort to shut it again. Sofia, shoo! Amelie. When Sofia spun back around, the newspaper and the items on the table were all gone. Amelie. Sofia. Yeah. Oh, Amelie. Please use this. Thanks, I'll bring an umbrella next time, I promise. Sofia took the towel in her hand. It was soft, but somewhat old. Lightly dried her hair closed, but still found herself cold. Amelie, then if you're now dried off, would you care for a tour of the house before afternoon tea? That sounds great. Oh, and you're right, it's the pantry, and down that hall is the boiler room, but you shouldn't have any need for those spaces. The two walked side by side, alone in such a big manner. These are all guest bedrooms. I have prepared this one for you, for yours use. If you find anything not to your standards, you can let myself or Lalika know. Sophia, Amelia, I have a feeling your standards are much higher than mine. I've never even been in a house that looks like this. No, is your home not similar? Well, it's a lot smaller. There is no shame in that. You own your own property, yes? Sophia, yeah, I recently bought it. Your husband? Sophia, what? No, of course not. I'm not married. Amelia, your father allowed you to buy a property on your own? Sophia, Amelia, you speak just like how you write. I'm so surprised. Amelia, and you speak quite casually. People usually just People usually say that about me. Being here around you makes me want to be more formal. Amelie, what need is there for formality between friends? That's true too. This is the morning room, and next door is the dining room. We'll be having afternoon tea in the sitting room here. So many rooms. Upstairs is my bedroom and the master bedroom. I must add that you do not enter the master bedroom, as it belongs to my parents, who are currently away. From the landing below, Sophia could see the door to the master bedroom. For some reason, her eyes were glued to it. Come inside. Come open the door. We're waiting for you. Sophia. Of course, I won't go poking around anyway. Sophia shook her head, and time seemed to resume around her. Amelie, all this walking has made me parched. Shall we take an afternoon tea now? Sure, that sounds good. Amelie, why don't you have a seat while Lilika and I prepare our food? Oh, I can come help. Amelie, nonsense, you are my guest. It would be remiss of me to allow you to lift a finger. Defy your fate. If you insist, but I'm happy to help any time. Thank you, I'll be back soon. Please rest, Amelie. Yes. It's nothing. Take your time. What was that? Defy your fate? I'm so confused. The room was spacious and dead silent apart from Sophia's footsteps as she crossed the wood. Each step was deliberate and slow as her eyes searched through the room. Nothing in particular stood out. Large windows showed a glimpse of the outside world, though thick curtains, the rain was still coming down hard, obscuring her view. Windows shook every now and then, but the wind had seemed to have died down a little. Sophia, behind her, a chair at the dining table had been pulled out as if it were waiting for her to sit down. Sophia, Amelia, was that you? Amelie? Her hand rested against her chest, begging her heart to calm. Or Lalika? Whether a hollow laugh sounded through the room or not, she wasn't sure. She quietly sat down on the seat that was left for her. The table was already set, but once again she noticed a thin layer of dust on the surface. Through the silence, Sophia could hear it again. Footsteps. But this time from directly above. The master bedroom. In front of her very eyes, Sophia watched the scene unfold. A woman not older than 40 removed her shoes and stepped onto the table, yet nothing was disturbed. She reached up and took a hold of the noose. The rope was wrapped around her neck like the finest pearl necklace. Join me. The woman's eyes locked on Sophia's. Her hand was outstretched, waiting for her to be taken. A rusty smell filled her nose, scented with the faint smell of perfume. Sophia shivered in response, her breath frosty on her lips. She reached for the hand slowly. Amelie, I'm back. Ah, Sofia. Oh, Amelie, I'm sorry you scared me. Is everything alright? Sofia stared at the spot where the woman was only a moment ago. Both she and the news had disappeared. Amelie, something is the matter, isn't it? Something happened within this room? Happened? What exactly do you mean? Did a woman with brown hair tied in a bun and a dark green dress ever live here? Well, it sounds to me like you're describing my mother. Your mother? Yes, she just as you described, but you couldn't have seen her. Here, she's still away. Right. Let me pour us some tea before it gets cold. Will Alika be joining us? I believe so. Was she here a moment ago? No, she wasn't here. How strange. She told me she was coming to sit with you. Perhaps she's gotten herself busy. Should we wait? There's no need. It would be sad to let the tea get cold. Sofia watches the tea filled 2 out of the 3 cups. The third cup sat empty. For some reason, the very sight filled her with dread. She picked up the cup and brought it to her lips. It was green tea. The taste was bitter and musty. With her heart on edge, she placed the cup back down on the saucer, smiling towards Amelia. Do you have much trouble getting here? A little. My ride broke down, so I had to walk for a bit. Broke down? I'm extremely sorry. If the staff had been here, I would have sent someone to collect you. It's okay. It's just a little rain. I just wouldn't want you catching a fever. My medicine store has been running low of late. No worries. I usually carry ibuprofen with ibuprofen. I haven't heard of it. Anyway, I'm glad you arrived here safely. I'll draw you a bath for you later to make sure you are warmed up properly. Thank you. Amelia sipped her tea before looking down at with a confused expression. Amelia, a little stale. I'll ask my father to procure a new batch when he arrives home. Where are your parents, by the way? Well, we were separated due to the plague. They took the staff to wait until a cure is found and left me here with Alika as to not catch the disease. Right, I understand. I spent a lot of time separated from my family due to the pandemic, too. It warms my heart to find another thing in common with you, Sofia. It was surprised to hear that it's safe enough for you to visit. Perhaps that means my parents will be back soon, too. I think so. The world seems to be opening back up again. What do you do locked up in this big house all the time? Well, I usually spend my time sewing or playing music. I used to write, but well, my parents wondered if it was feminine enough. I don't really think that matters. If you enjoy it, then I say you should do it. Sophia, then what about you? Well, I'm studying at an art university right now, so I guess that's what I spend most of my time on. You attend a university? Yeah, although I'm thinking about dropping out. Sophia, you truly are filled with surprise. You own your own land and you attend a school. How jealous I am. Why don't you do the same? Oh no, I'm not allowed. Of course you are. Anyone can attend within reason. Amelie, but well, wouldn't it get in the way of my marriage? You're engaged? Amelie shook her head. Not yet, but I'm already 19. I'm sure my father has prepared my dowry. An arranged marriage? Yes, naturally. I don't think I'll ever get married. Really? Doesn't your family object? I don't think they really mind as long as I'm happy. You don't have to either, you know. You've given me much to think about, much indeed. Now I wonder where Lily gets disappeared to. Well, it's no matter. The evening is already coming and soon it will be dark. Shall I draw you a bath? That sounds wonderful. To be honest, I'm not hungry, so can we skip dinner tonight? Of course, if that's what you wish. Let me show you the bathroom. Before she left the room, Sofia took one last look back at where that noose once hung. You may not believe it, but my father had taps installed. Isn't that wonderful? Like taps for a bath? That's right. We used to have our maids fill the bath. But now there's no need. Ah, Amelia, you're so strange. I have taps at my house too. Really, you must live quite the lavish lifestyle yourself. I don't know about that. This is the bathroom. Allow me to draw a bath for you one moment. Alone in the hallway, Sophia peered back up the grand staircase past the large stained glass window and at the dark door shut tight. A moment later, Amelie popped back out of the bathroom. Feel free to go inside and make yourself comfortable. I'll return with the towel in a moment. Thanks, Amelie. Water spewed from the rusted pipes into the steel-lined wooden bathtub. Everything was silent. Sophia took herself steps forward and peered into the bath. It all seemed normal. With a sigh, she finally let her shoulders relax. Yet in her mind, all she could see was that woman with her outstretched hand reaching towards her, clutched her hand to her chest. It still shook. Sofia stumbled forward until her hands rested on either side of the washroom basin. Her fingers held on tight until her knuckles were bone white. Okay, Sofia, you're just tired. Her eyes traveled up the mirror. It was embellished with a golden frame. She stared at her reflection. She was still herself. It was all a fragment of her imagination. That's when she saw it. The mirror standing behind her. It was a young woman with a long blonde hair that merely reached down to the floor and deep blood-red eyes. She didn't try to speak or make any movement. She just stared with her big, dark eyes. Who? Sofia wanted to spin around to confront the girl, but her whole body was frozen stiff. The young woman finally started to move. One step at a time, maintaining eye contact with the mirror, she crept closer. Closer. And closer until Sofia swore she could feel her breath on the back of her neck. Her mouth seemed to be moving, but no words escaped her lips. Who are you? She spun around, but no one was there. The water overflowed from the tub, spilling out over the floor. Sofia rushed forward to turn off the tap and noticed it. The water that came from the tap was red. A dark, deep red. She hurriedly turned the tap for what felt like forever, and finally it stopped. Sofia stared at the dark liquid inside the tub. Without thought, her hand dipped in. When she withdrew it, each finger was dyed red. Something about it captivated Sofia. She undressed one later time, peeling away the still damp clothing, and stepped forward into the bathtub. She sank down until everything under her shoulders was submerged in the liquid. It felt heavier than water, much heavier. As she stared directly ahead, those blood-red eyes reflected in her mind. Why not just end it here? You're scared, aren't you? Just sink down. Accept your fate. Accept it. She could no longer hear the sounds of the door opening as her face sunk down into the liquid, her eyes shut. Sofia, I knocked but didn't hear a reply. I've brought you a towel. Ah! Sofia's eyes sprung open. The water was clear and the tap was still running, causing it to overflow on the floor once again. Sofia drew her knees to her chest, still facing away from Amelia's voice. Heat rose to her cheeks. Being seen like this by her... Oh, Sofia, please forgive me. I didn't realize you had already entered the bath. No, it's okay. I'm sorry. You just surprised me. I'll leave the towel here. Thanks. The door shut again. Sofia finally turned back to look at where Amelie once stood. No one was there anymore. Not Amelie, not a woman in a long green dress, or a young lady with blonde hair. She died. What's going on? She sank into the water, although this time fully conscious of what she was doing. Not feeling all that much better, she stepped out and took hold of the towel that Amelie had left for her. Water fell from her body. She stared at the cloth. The towel was pink, similar to her favorite hoodie. The towel was old and full of holes and what seemed to be burn marks. Reluctantly, she wrapped it around her body. From outside the door, Amelie's voice called out to her. Let me come help, Sofia. When you're done in there, you can come to your room. Okay, thanks. Wait, who is she helping? Yeah. Shivered. The room had become awfully cold, and the towel did little to bring her warmth. Yep. Her discarded clothes and redressed. Her clothes felt foreign and wrong on her. Sofia took a deep breath and swallowed hard. I'm okay. What is going on? The hall was already darkened with no light spilling from the windows. A few sconces attached to the walls were lit with live flames, but it offered little in the way of calming her. Step. The floor creaked under her weight. She stopped outside of her bedroom. Inside, she could hear talking. She put her ear to the door. Amelie, didn't we already speak of this? You cannot leave the house. But surely the greenhouse would be safe. No one else uses it, and it is only a few steps from the back door. It is unsafe. You know this. What's gotten into you? It is because of your friend. Just thought it would be nice to at least sit in the sun. Then you may sit by the window in the dining hall. Is this really so unsafe that even taking a foot outdoors would be dangerous? Yes. Sofia opened the door and entered the room. Amelie stood by herself, making the bed. Yeah, I see you're done with the bath. Sofia looked away, thinking of what had happened in that bathroom. Were you talking about the greenhouse? Yes. Did you see it when you arrived? I did, but it looked as if the plants inside had died. Oh, that's impossible. It's barely been any time at all since the gardeners left. I'm sure the plants inside are more sturdier than that. Well, even if they have died, maybe we could go and replant some things tomorrow. How wonderful. Have you not heard a word I said. It's unsafe to do so. Oh. Oh, don't be such a spoil sport. I think it's perfectly fine. Well, it's getting late now, so I'll leave you to retire. If you need anything, my room is just upstairs on the left. Good night, Sophia. Door shifted before Amelia could even reach to touch it. Sophia's eyes on locked in on the movement. Amelia, would you stay for a while? Is this something the matter? Just a little homesick. Sophia sat down on the bed before resting her head on a pillow. It was hard. Of course. Why don't we chat for a while? And come join me. Sophia gently pet the spot beside her in the bed. Ah. Okay. Sophia looked towards Amelie in the low light. Right now, she seemed hauntingly beautiful, as if she were nothing more than a ghost. Thanks for staying with me for a while. It's nothing to worry about, truly. I wanted to spend more time with you two. Really? You don't find me boring? You are the most interesting person I've ever met. Don't be silly. I'm being completely honest. You truly are so unique. I think the same about you. I've never met anyone like you, really. Her mind flashed back to all she had seen. Really, she truly had never met anyone like Amelie. You wrote so much about yourself, and yet seeing you in person, I fear there is still so much I don't know. There's plenty of time for us to gather everything. Then tell me something about yourself, something you've never told anyone. Hmm. I'm partially blind in my right eye. Really, how well can you see? It's okay, just a little blurry, really. You tell me something. Tell me something, she thought. Tell me what's going on here. Tell me I'm not insane. Well, when I was 12, I stole the cookie jar from the kitchen and blamed my brother. He was scolded for hours. What a mischievous child. I'm sure your brother wasn't too pleased. Actually, it was his idea. He knew I wanted it and told me to tell my parents it was him if I was asked. What a good brother. Where is he now? Did he go away with your parents? Amelie shook her head. He died when I was 16. Or he died when he was 16. He died when he was 16. Okay, yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, Amelie. What happened? Scarlet fever, so my family was left with only me as an heir. And what worth is a female heir? You're worth plenty, more than plenty. Thank you, Sofia, but some days I'm unsure. It's your turn again. Truthfully, I said before I didn't want to get married, but that's not exactly right. I do. Oh? I just don't want a husband. Then, I'm sorry, does it make you uncomfortable? No. I have also thought out that I don't want a husband. Whenever my father has brought it up, I felt sick to my stomach. How about coming away with me for a while? Away? Outside of the house? What about the sickness? Yes, away. Away from this place. It's okay now. You'll be okay. You could come stay at my house. I could show you around my school. You don't have to go through an arranged marriage if you don't want to. You would do that for me? You are my dearest friend, and I actually... Lalika. At some point, the two women had gotten close enough together that they could feel each other's breath on their lips. The two parted with reddened cheeks, Amelia quickly brushing her skirt off and standing up. I should be going to bed. Please rest well. We can talk more about it in the morning, right? Right. Good night, Amelia. I'll see you tomorrow. Amelia left the room. Meanwhile, Sophia's eyes studied the space. For some reason, Sophia just couldn't sit still. She tried to lay down to rest, but turned this way and that, uneasy. I'll get some water. The hallway was dark, but the most stone sconces had been blown out already. Sophia stepped carefully through the space, conscious of the sound of her footsteps. The kitchen was by the stairwell. Hand-painted portraits were lined up in the rows on either side of the hall. She started up the great grand staircase. Each step was inviting, enticing her to make the ascent. Her large eyes stared once again at the imposing stained glass window and then the doors that awaited upstairs. Her hand rested against the kitchen door, her fingers dancing over the handle. It stayed there as her mind debated with itself. Waiting, waiting, come here. Come visit us. Her hand dropped to her side as she ascended past the glass window and to the next floor. Two doors awaited her. A chill ran through her, the air as the scene played out before her. Two women dragged a man's body up the staircase, leaving a trail of blood on the otherwise pristine carpet. They pushed open one of the doors. The man's head hit the final step, but made no move to stop them, nor cried out in pain. He was already long dead. The figure disappeared in the room. When Sophia blinked, the door was shut again. Trembled. Master bedroom. From behind the closed door, a voice called out to her, but the words were much too faint to make out. Her hand rested against the handle. Sophia couldn't stop it from shaking. With a careful motion, she pushed the door open. A musty smell came from further inside the dark room. Sophia, peering into the darkness, quickly took hold of one of the lit candles near the room and stepped inside. A portrait sat above a large canopied bed. The curtains were pulled back, hiding whatever was inside. In the portrait, Amelie sat beside a woman with a green dress and a brown hair, done up in a bun. Standing behind them was a man with an imposing brow and a large beard. Yeah, a family of mice ran from under the bed and out of the room. Sophia jumped to the side, narrowly avoiding them. Step, step, step. Each step brought her closer to the bed. Each step made her chest feel heavier, tighter. She stood before the bed and reached in trembling hand to the curtains that hid whatever lay inside. A wind blew from somewhere unseen, and her candle extinguished. Behind her, the door shut, and the room plunged into near complete darkness. Amelie, is that you? I'm sorry I came in here after you asked me not to. I'll just go now, okay? Her body fell forward before she had a moment to react. She tumbled through the curtains and landed on something hard that rested on the bed. What? Curtains flew open and the moon shone from outside. Oh, Jesus. Ah! The body she was expecting to find was absent. In its place, two skeletons long ago decayed. They laid side by side, one smaller and the other large. Now one was either side of her. Her scream pierced through the air, but no one came running. I desperately squirmed to run, but I felt as if something was sitting on her, holding her down. As she struggled, she saw it, two dark red eyes hanging above her, watching. You won't take her away from me.